Hi, my name is Allie Adams, and the organization that I observed is called National Health Foundation. What National Health Foundation does is they actually partner with people experiencing homelessness. So they're a nonprofit that works with that population. And so what they have a bunch of different centers, but the center that I looked at and observed is a housing center or a rehabilitation center. So what happens is oftentimes insurance companies don't want to pay for people experiencing homelessness to stay at their hospitals because they don't get paid as much as if one of like you or I did stayed there, because they can bill us, they can bill their insurance. They just get a more of a profit, so they don't want people experiencing homelessness to stay at their facilities, and so oftentimes they get let go early. And so what National Health Foundation does is that they take these individuals that are experiencing homelessness and house them there. So they bill the insurances to stay there instead of at the hospital. And while they're there, they can get services such as treating physical and mental health, and also get permanent housing. So things like job security, finding that permanent housing, because they have social workers and nurses and other people on staff to help kind of give this best care to these people experiencing homelessness. So it's a really cool organization that I really support. But I think that this organization brings a lot of light to the talk of people experiencing homelessness. I think it's still an issue where I think I see a lot of justice issues of what is appropriate care for these people and what the stigmas are. And so I think when I think about a lot of the ethical variables that were at play there, I think a lot about perception bias. There's such perception bias toward these individuals, especially not so much in the facility with the workers, but they're in the middle of downtown to service the most amount of people. And just stereotypically, the most amount of people experiencing homelessness are in downtown. And so to walk outside of the facility and see how people walking by view the people that I were interacting with was really hard to see. Because without even knowing them, they had this perception bias of what they're going to look like, that they were scary, that they were all mentally unstable. And that was just really hard to see, especially when I observed them and they were great people. And of course, there was that exception that there are people that are mentally unstable at that point because they're not taking the medication. But just to see the perception bias, I think, very blatantly was hard. And even sometimes with the workers, because there was all levels of workers. So there are some people who were social workers and trained in kind of more mental health field, and there are nurses who are in the same way. But then there are just like average people who maybe have not known what really goes on and what that means to deal with people experiencing homelessness. So there was even that perception bias on lower end staff of the way that they were treated based on what they think that they were going to be like, or just ethically, just to see kind of how they're treated less than human. That if you don't, kind of this ethical dilemma of that if you're not making the most amount of money, then it doesn't really matter how you treat you. You lose value because you are no longer valuable to society. And that was just hard to see. But I think overall, it was also great to see that there are people who are truly trying to help this population. That there are people who really care about this population. And also that they just form such a community within themselves. People experiencing homelessness, I seem to see the most amount of what God calls us to have in community, of this genuine, if I have something, we all have something. If I get $20, it's for us, it's not for me. And even in this facility where they have 3 meals a day and they are taken care of, they still take care of each other. And that was really cool to see, even just in like the 4 hours I was there. There was very much this community that we don't necessarily have as Christians sometimes in our own churches. And so it made me really challenge, how can these people who have nothing share everything. And I think it goes back to kind of the rich young ruler of when you have so much, giving up everything is impossible. When you have nothing, you don't have to give up a lot. You don't have to give up anything because you don't have it to then give to others. And I think that that was really challenging for me, of just to remember, what does community look like, and what does treating people who I have a perception bias against look like? Because we all, to some degree, whether it's conscious or unconscious, implicit or explicit, we have these biases and perception ethical issues that we need to deal with. And so I think just people experiencing homelessness have a lot more overt ones. And so I think that was something that I really learned. But I really enjoyed going to this facility, and I think I will be going back to just volunteer and just continue to have community with these people.